What it do, y'all boys? It's your boy, Kenpachi Games, back at it with another video. You see the name, you see the title. Hey, I got something a little different for y'all. Just a little different. Now, you should already have a general idea what it's going to be about, but hey, this is about Invincible. Now, if y'all have never seen that show, pause this video, go to Amazon Prime or wherever y'all look at shows at, and watch this show. Hands down, off the rip. Just put a little pause in it and come back later. Thank me when you get back. But before we get into the nitty gritty, I just want to thank you guys for tuning back in with me. I really appreciate all the support and love y'all give, all the likes, views. I appreciate it all. If you guys have any requests, anything you guys want me to review or discuss, or just anything in general, just general conversation, you boys let me know. But Invincible fans, we is eating. Now, earlier this month, we had that 2025 Summer Game Fest, and in that fest, they announced a 2D Invincible fighting game. Let me just reiterate that for you. A 2D Invincible fighting game with blood and everything else that makes Invincible good. But we're going to get a little more into that in just a second. So to just give you all a general idea of what I'll be doing in this video, I'll basically be watching the trailer with you and then talking a little bit about the game, and then I'll go on to basically say the top 10 characters that I feel should be in the game. Now, we're not doing no basic picks, but we are going off how long they were in the show, being as they would have to show enough moves to be included in the game in the first place. And sadly, some characters did not get the type of shine that they maybe could have landed themselves in the game, because there were a couple characters in the show that really could have landed in the game, but unfortunately they just got did the worst way. But we ain't gonna divulge and we ain't gonna get into a tangent. There's enough for the intro. This is long enough. Let's get into the business and get into this gameplay.
Because northbound is backed up all the way to 810, and the southbound ain't looking much better.
This is ridiculous. Please, come on.
One of them? You're here for the second.
Had enough yet?
No, Dad, not even close.
I hoped you'd understand why I had to do this. Accept our rule or die.
I'd like to propose a third option.
I'm not your son anymore. I'm the guy who's going to throw you off this planet for good. I trusted you!
That's all. Ready to bleed? This is over. All right, coming through.
Let's do this! Gotcha!
So, chat, what we think about that trailer? Me personally, that shit was in fact heat. Look at those graphics. First thing that come to mind is those graphics. Now you might say, "Hey, it's 2025. Graphics like that should be normal." Yeah, it should be normal, but unfortunately, the state of games and the state of fighting games in general is abysmal to say the least. Now I won't go into a full rant about how piss poor that game looks, but let's just keep in mind that that's one of the best anime of all time, and for a game that looks like it was made for the PS2 to be released in 2025, 2026. Well, it would be 2025 because I think this game comes out like next month. But for it to look like it's made for a PS2, that should say all it has to. But the first thing we see here, to get back on base, we got a couple fan favorites. We got Nolan, the other two Viltrumites, Lucan, and I forgot the knife one's name. But we got them, which that was a good idea in my opinion for them to be included, just due to the fact that season two is really where season one was hype, but season two, when they were introduced, I felt like the hype came back to the show because it kind of died down because season two had more of a slower and building type of start. So when they were introduced, that's when the hype came back to Invincible as a show. So I felt like it was good to introduce them on the first trailer, which I have a feeling that they're going to include some season one and season two characters, but we'll get into that later. But back to it, I see here we got some pretty good graphics. We got blood, which some fighting games are scared to include blood. They just have decent gameplay and they'll shy away from the blood, but I see they kept it true to the source material because Invincible is pretty bloody, and it's real. Honestly, it's pretty good as a animation that has blood and realism of being a superhero. I feel like that's one of the best parts of Invincible is that it has blood and it's very real because it feels like a Justice League type story, but it has more realism and it has imperfect characters. Like I feel like DC and Marvel, like they have a lot of characters that are supposed to mean something. So they're maybe they show more of their imperfections in the comics, but not to get into a whole spiel. But I do really like what I'm seeing here. I see some good gameplay as well, good combos. They're including a lot of things, so I feel like the game is in good hands. Speaking of good hands, I saw the trailer and I was inspired to really do some research on it and the game as a whole. So I actually looked up who developed the game, and to be honest, I was a little concerned seeing as how The Walking Dead and Invincible were written and created by the same people. So the only other games I thought off the top of my head would just be the Telltale The Walking Dead games. But come to find out, they were in the same production company, which was the Skybound Entertainment, but it would be a new in-house game studio called Quarter, which this would be pretty much their first game. So I did a little research, and the team creating the game is actually led by an executive producer named Mike Willett, who was also a part of Double Helix Games, which I'm not sure if you know, but they developed a 2013 fighting game called Killer Instinct. Now, when I seen this article myself, I wanted to do a little bit more research onto what the Double Helix and Killer Instinct was. So I looked it up, and I've definitely seen like clips on TikTok and Twitter of these combos, and I never knew what fighting game it was from. But Killer Instinct is definitely the game where when you get a really long combo, they start playing music in the background, and just the overall gameplay, it looks enjoyable to play. But just to see that we have people that created a good fighting game back in the day and they know what they're doing, hopefully they can live up to the hype that they're setting down. At least in my eyes, it's pretty hyped up. because it has good animation, good story to go from, and not to even mention it's a 3-on-3 and it has an original story. I see that. You can already kind of tell by the trailer because uh, Mark says something that he's never said in the show, which would be, "You're not my dad anymore." So you can already kind of see that they're planning on doing things a little bit different, which it's still obviously going to be Invincible and it's a fighting game, but it's good to see that they're using ideas and making it new and innovative. But without further ado, my dudes and dudettes, we have now arrived to the section of the video that I assume you're all here for. The top 10 characters I think should be in it. Now, let's remember, we're doing mostly fan favorites and characters that have shown moves in the show, which I actually did some additional research and I see that they plan to include storylines and moves and things of that nature from the comics as well. So, as far as the show wise, they didn't really leave anything too prevalent out from the comics, but it's a good thing to hear that they plan to include things from the comics because, I mean, the source material can only make it better. But I'm glad to see that the gears are going and they doing a thing. But without further ado, let's get into why we here. Now, now at number one, I got a little curveball for y'all. We do need a duplicate. Yes, yes, she ain't catch that many dubs. That is okay. She's been a focal character. Well, I don't want to say a focal, but she's definitely been a main character throughout the show since the very beginning. Seen her fighting since I'd say that was episode 3 that she was introduced with the Thraxans, those aliens that come from a different planet that their time moves faster or whatever. So yes, we've seen her fighting from the very beginning, and we have definitely plenty enough to work with. And I was able to actually do some research into what I think she should be playing like. So let's get on over to that. Now, these two games aren't exactly the same. Obviously, these are two different games and two different characters. Now, this character here uses portals as well in his combos, but what I really wanted to highlight and focus on is the fact that his normals and his attacks, they incorporate the use of his clone. So I feel like obviously these are two separate games, and Invincible versus is obviously going to be faster than this game, but I feel like if they had this as this type of gameplay as a blueprint, they wouldn't need to do much. But they definitely have the content and the resources to work on it. But on to the next. For my number 2, I got a little curveball for y'all, and that is Dark Seismic, the GOAT. Nah, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. It is Dark Seismic, but he ain't my GOAT. Now, before y'all click off and say I'm trolling, just hear me out. Just hear me out. Now, we need more villain representation. Well, I wouldn't say more villain representation because we already have some villains announced, but we do need villain representation, and I don't think it's just going to be the Viltrumites. I feel like that would be a missed opportunity if they only had Superman type characters, which the characters all seem to play different. Even if a couple of them can fly, they all fight differently, and it's not like you can just float and fly like this is Fighter Z. But anyways, I think that he would be a great addition because we've already seen him throughout the show. He's been a reoccurring character and he has moves that we have seen, but we're gonna get into a little, you know what I'm saying? Don't worry, I got some research for y'all. Tune in with me. So I was actually doing some homework and I was able to find 2 blueprints for what I feel like he should play like in this game, which obviously these characters utilize screams when you would switch those screams for his earthquake bracelets. So just the way that they stun you in place, that's the same way that that Dark Seismic did to Mark in season 3. Not really a spoiler, I mean it's an average fight, but he basically used it to stun Mark, which there's enough to work with that they can do this and they can pull this off, which they can even include the ult of sending he hits you with the earthquake bracelets and you get attacked by the underground monsters, and then they fuck you up and they bring you back to the stage, which Mortal Kombat has similar ults, but we're not going to divulge too much in the other games. I got the Doc at number 2. At number 3, I got my melanated goat. I heard he y'all goat too. Y'all, I don't know. Invincible fans, y'all let me know. But at number 3, I got Darkwing. Now we already know we don't got enough heroes. We don't got enough Guardians of the Globe characters. Now, if his student wasn't introduced in season 2, it would have been so tough, and he would definitely not have made this list, and he probably wouldn't have made it in the game as well. Which I'm pretty confident they're going to have Darkwing, seeing as how his character, his student was introduced in season 2, and I feel like this game is going to be mostly season 2 focused. It may have some season 3, which we'll get into that later, but I feel like it's going to be mostly season 2 focused, so it only makes sense if he's in the game as well. But you should already get at where I'm going at with this gameplay. Let's get into it. Now, as you can imagine, there's enough Batman type gameplay to go around. Now, first things foremost, we do need to see the Batarangs. We do need to see him using his tools. Now, his apprentice didn't really use as many tools, but if we're not gonna show us him using tools, which he still uses the Batarangs, but we gotta see at least him using his powers. Which, speaking of his powers, I found a little clip of another game, which is Marvel vs. Capcom, which I was reviewing some of the gameplay from that game, and in hindsight, that game looks very similar to what they're giving us for Invincible 2. So if you guys never seen Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite gameplay, go check that out. It's a good reference point, at least for me, in my opinion, as far as the pacing of the game. But yes, I do feel like Darkwing is my number 3. At number 4, I got my boy Sala. Robot. Hey, and for those of y'all who ain't never peeped, go tune in to Heroes. It's a show from 2006. Hey, it's Pete right there, but that's throwback. But anyways, let's get into the nitty gritty. Robot, one of the most seen characters in the show, other than probably Mark and Omni-Man. Robot has really been fighting since episode 1, and he has the most to work with. As far as fighting wise, like, for a character that's just a robot, he has clones, he has giants, he has too much to work with for them to not include him in the game, which we know for certain, for hands down. I bet money on that right now. He's for sure going to be in the game. When they're going to release him, I don't know. He's definitely going to be one of the trailers before the games drop. But let's get into that gameplay. So for my robot gameplay, I chose some Cyrax and some Sector from MK1. So those characters are both robot-based characters with different attacks like missiles and the such, which is pretty similar to how I picture a robot playing, because one, he has too many tools. He has missiles. He has, I believe in the show, he has laser beams. He has of course the clones, the giant robot, which all of this was in season 1, season 2, so it's not even like this is fishing to say that they're going to include these things. But yes, I think he's going to be a top tier character in the game as far as combos and setups. I feel like he's going to be a good character to create spacing, and he's going to be a more mid-range spacing creating type of character. Definitely a top tier, mark my words. But let's get into the next one. Now for my number 5, I got the people's champ, my boy Alan the Alien. Now, that right there has been a character that's been too focal to the story. He's been fighting. He's actually a fan favorite, to be real. All Invincible type content, if there's Invincible content out, Alan has something to do with it. He's just been a fan favorite since the beginning. He got a likable personality, and he getting busy. Let's be for real. Him actually getting stronger every time he loses, that's pretty cool. I, me personally, if I'm being choosy, I would like them to include season 2 and season 3 version of him, not as separate characters or separate move sets, obviously, but I'm gonna need at least different skins because I've already seen some other costumes. We need Swole Allen in the cut, but let's get into that gameplay. Now, if I was to put a pin into how my goat would play, I feel like Hellboy might be the closest bet, at least for me personally, because I feel like Hellboy does a good job of grabbing mid combo and really seeming like an imposing figure. And I really feel like Alan is going to be a flying, obviously, Brawlic type character that's going to have command grabs, and he's probably going to have some type of shoulder rush or heavy punch. I mean, obviously, this is obvious that most characters are going to have it, but I feel like Alan for sure is going to be one of those type of characters. Now, let's get into the next one. Now, at my number 6, I got another GOAT here. I got the Kenpachi of Invincible. Now, if y'all don't know, number 6 is Battle Beast. My boy. I ain't gonna lie. When I first seen him in season 1, when he was first introduced, I didn't think he was gonna be that important of a character. I mean, he looked cool, but definitely didn't think he was gonna be important as he was. Just how he was introduced and how he was with that no-name group of villains. And then when he actually turned up and Mark started beating all the other no-name villains and he snapped Mark by his neck, I was like, oh yeah, he a guy. But as a comic reader, I ain't know he was a guy like that. But yes, at my number 6, I got the GOAT, Battle Beast. We definitely got scenes from him in season 1, and then again, we don't know if they're gonna include season 3. But if they do include season 3, he's for sure going to be in this game. Which I got some gameplay for y'all. Let's get into that. Now, for Battle Beast, the formula is simple. He's a character with a sword, and he primarily uses weapons. So we could give him. There hasn't been any Hawkman from DC gameplay like that to showcase, but I did find some DNF duel gameplay for y'all, which I got on the screen now. And I feel like he's going to be a character that's going to be hard to deal with, especially on the defensive end. Like, I don't think you're just going to be able to just defensive mechanic your way out of his strings and his combos. So stay tuned for him. He's definitely going to be a top tier character and a top tier pain in the ass. And for my number 7, I got the queen that played both roles. If you know, you know. Monster Girl. Or Hulk Jr., as they call him. But, yeah, man, I feel like every fighting game likes to have at least one character that's bigger than the rest of the cast, like a Hulk type character. And I feel like it's only right if they give that spot to her, seeing as how she's a current guardian of the globe. We see her fighting almost every episode. Well, not every episode, but every episode that the Guardians are involved. She's always a focal force, and Mark slapped the dog hell out of her. But yeah, man, I feel like she is a fan. Well, not a fan favorite, but she's definitely an important character, especially going on in the later seasons. It would be a crime to leave her out. I know that her transforming gimmick is definitely going to be like an intro to the fight type gimmick, and they're gonna find some way to make it witty and funny. But yeah, at my number 7, I got Monster Girl. Now, for my choice of gameplay this time, I chose a game that means a lot to me. Definitely put me through hell personally. But Fighter Z Broly, I feel like he's a perfect representation of what a big character in a game should play like, especially in a 2D fighter like this, like the heavy stomps, the fact that he grabs you mid combo and throws you against the wall. I feel like that would be the perfect type of uh, combo setup or formula and blueprint for you to use for Monster Girl. But like they coincide easily and they commingle easily. They're both big Brawlic characters. I feel like Broly is the perfect representation of how to really show that in a 2D fashion. But yeah, I love this game. The game put me through hell. So did Broly. We don't Broly K, fuck Broly. That's why we ain't gonna get into that. On to the next one. For my number 8, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, chat. I did not want to include him in my list because he is a mark. But hey, man, he's a main character nonetheless, and definitely going to be in the game. At my number 8, I have Immortal, the hero who's lived too damn long and is starting to show in his decision making. But yeah, man, this mark is definitely going to be included. He's really just not the best and most enthusiastic. Not enthusiastic. He is not the most charismatic character, so it's definitely hard to like him or follow any type of decisions he makes. But regardless, he is a main character and he's most likely going to be included in the game. I don't want to spend too much time on this guy. Let's get through this gameplay. Now, you should already know what type of gameplay I pulled up. We got Omni-Man gameplay, Immortals role model, and who he wish he could fight like. Now I see them using this gameplay as more or less a formula. This is who he wishes he could fight like, and I don't think Omni-Man will be playing like this in this game. So I think they'll give the more generic Superman type things to him. So we have now arrived at the next section of our video, which would be the DLC segment. So I'm not gonna lie to you, for these next 2 entries that I have on these lists, these are speculative characters because we're not sure how far in the series they actually plan to go with this game. So keep that in mind, that these 2 characters may not be in the game depending on if they only want to go the season 2 route. But if they include all of what's been shown on TV in that Amazon Prime, then these 2 characters should be included, and let's get into that. So for my number 9 and my first DLC entry of the list, I got the child serial killer. I got my boy Oliver. Now, not too much on my guy. We could go into a whole rant on how Oliver being irresponsible with his powers made Mark a better person and a better man, and actually encouraged him to step into a role that was more realistic for his future. But hey, man, that's not a discussion video. I ain't gonna get into a excursion. But anyways, yes, I do have Oliver on my number 8. He is definitely a character that has been in the mix since season 2. He wasn't really fighting in season 2. That's why I included him as a DLC character. He got more active and actually became a hero in season 3 and was seen fighting in season 3. So I know that they definitely have some things to work on and things to work with. So definitely look out for him. He's definitely a fan favorite. Good little Viltrumite blooded guy. He irresponsible and he real arrogant, but hey, it's not a character analysis. This a top 10, and he is for sure going to be in it if they include DLC or season 3 characters. So to be completely transparent about this segment of the video, Oliver was actually the one character that I wasn't able to put a solid finger onto what their playstyle would be like, because it'd be pretty obvious. It'd be similar to most, I wouldn't say most of the characters, but what you imagine Omni-Man or Mark playing like, I can see him playing similar to that. I know that they're definitely going to include that animation from season 3 when he punched through one of the twins. But as far as to and general idea as to what exactly he'll play with, my guess would be as good as yours, so I didn't want to waste your time with some gameplay. Now, let's get into my last and final entry of the list. So for my number 10, I got Powerplex. Now, this character here, he was a typical villain. Well, typical in the sense that his logic is heavily flawed and circulatory, I guess you could say. But his backstory reminds me a lot of Zeno from Avengers Civil War. I'm not sure if you guys are Marvel fans, but as far as their backstory, it's very similar because it's of a normal guy who basically went through hardship because a superhero was fighting a villain in their area and their families were hurt and just decided to take it out on the hero, kind of similar to how, well, Batman isn't really a villain, but that's how Batman was acting in the Batman versus Superman movie. So just the pointing at the hero kind of trope, which he was a pretty decent character as far as fighting wise. I know that they would be able to incorporate that. So let's just get into this gameplay so I can explain that. So for the gameplay for Powerplex, I have him playing more or less like a Raiden type character, which there's different examples. Obviously, Raiden has been in multiple different uh, facets and games, so definitely check those out. I see Powerplex getting some type of gimmick or some type of stat boost where over time the more damage he takes, the more damage he outputs, and but his power should more or less be electric the whole time. I just see that if he takes more damage or as the fight goes on, he just does more damage, which that would be a cool little gimmick if they start to include gimmicks for different characters, because they may as well with all the different variations of characters that they have dropping. But yes, this is my top 10 characters that should be in the game. Powerplex is definitely up there. He would be a character I would use for fun. I can already tell you now. I don't plan on maining him even without seeing any gameplay or knowing if he's going to be in it. But I'm pretty sure as long as they include season 3 content, he's going to be in it. Now we have reached the final segment of this video, and that would be the conclusion. Now, going from the gameplay looks amazing, fast paced, look like they have some interesting mechanics like the armor, defensive mechanics, the animation itself. The graphics look beautiful. I see the breaking apart animations. That's pretty cool. That's unique. Let me see. Uh, the characters that we have so far, it's already pretty cool to see them doing new things with dialogue and animations and things of that nature, and just the fact that they stated that they would include moments and fights and moves from the comics so that we have more than what we've already seen. And the game just looks phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie to you. Me personally, I'm definitely pre-ordering this. An upcoming game hasn't had me this excited in honestly at least about 6 months. So y'all let me know in the comments, man, if y'all enjoy this type of video, if y'all plan on getting the game, and who y'all think should be in the game. Now I do have more content on the way. Stay tuned for my The Last of Us gameplay. I still have more of those on the way and other ideas I got in the pot cooking as well. So once again, I'd like to thank y'all for tuning in with y'all boy. It's Kenpachi, and I'll see y'all in the next video.